Now, the fledgling EFF, the Economic Freedom Fighters Party, has had its first television election ad banned by the SABC for apparently inciting violence. One line in particular seems to have upset the broadcast, in which the party promises to physically destroy e-tolls. Speaking on Newsnight a little earlier this week, this is how the EFF's Floyd Shavambu defended that line. By asking voters to physically destroy e-tolls, could that not be interpreted as inciting people to an act of criminality?
We're not asking voters to physically destroy the e-tolls. We're saying that when we are government, part of the commitments of the EFF government is to physically remove the e-tolls. If they had read properly what the advert says and what our manifesto says, is that we're going to remove the e-tolls physically immediately we are government on the 8th of May.
Well, that's the explanation. Here's the offending ad itself now. The party also scoffing at my suggestion that the ad was deliberately provocative, designed to be banned, which would result in increased media play.
Ndaphonxeka mhla umyeni wam waphulukana nobomi bakhe edutyulwa ngamapolisa umhlaba wonke ujongile kazuba elilizwe liya kuphi thina sizwe
South Africa, my name is Julius Sello Malema. I know your pain and your suffering. Let us vote against empty promises of the past 20 years. Vote for economic freedom in our lifetime. Let us restore the dignity of an African child. Vote EFF.
To a less robust form of advertising now, the soft drink brand Coca-Cola has used the phrase Rainbow Nation in celebration of Freedom Month. Using sunlight, water, some fancy science and a little bit of magic, rainbows were conjured up in the Johannesburg CBD by the advertising and marketing communications agency FCB Johannesburg and a technical team led by a globe-trotting rainbow maker from the United States. The brand says in the lead up to Freedom Day, it wanted to go further than just reminding South Africans of their heritage, wanting to create a symbol, a real symbol of diversity.
20 years ago, South Africa held its first democratic election. Nelson Mandela was elected into office. And Bishop Desmond Tutu coined the phrase the Rainbow Nation. A rainbow represented the diversity that made South Africa great. On the eve of the 20th anniversary of South Africa's democracy, we wanted to remind people what the symbol of the rainbow stood for. With a lot of testing, a bunch of fancy calculations, and a little bit of magic. So we didn't just show the symbol, we created it. A giant rainbow that appeared above our billboard. People stopped to witness the addition to the skyline. This rainbow is created by capturing the sun at a specific angle through the mist of non-drinkable recycled water. For those on the road, where there was a billboard, there were rainbows too. And because people have always wondered what's at the end of the rainbow, we also brought them down to the ground.
You look at the rainbow and you smile. That's why they call us the Rainbow Nation. We have a lot to smile about.
The rainbow reminds us of our best possible selves.
In South Africa, I'm a person because of other people. We call it Ubuntu.
Bringing people of the Rainbow Nation together to mark 20 years of democracy.
There are so many small kindnesses between South Africans.
We're not perfect, but somehow it all works.
I think this is one of the friendliest countries in the world, and I think
that makes me smile every day.
And create a little moment of happiness.
Finally this week, let's look at a marketing concept, and it's an interesting one. It's called influencer seeding, which I understand allows brands to seed product and experience through the mouths of people who apparently wield some sway in the marketplace. A definition first of influencer seeding. What is it? Perhaps more importantly, why would this be of any interest and importance to brands?
Firstly, one of the big elements that have come through is that traditional media has a trust or credibility element of around 72% of people. It was research that was done by Millward Brown in 2012, and basically what they found is that traditional media lacks credibility. A recommendation from a friend actually has significantly more credibility, with 92% of consumers believing what their friends tell them. So typically what influencer seeding does is they take remarkable brands, we put them in the hands of highly influential people, both offline and online, and we then give them that experience, and they then give their personal experience to their friends and seed that message.
How do you find those people that are effectively brand ambassadors?
There's different criteria that's utilized. If they're an online influencer, it's purely measured on their reach via social media, and we look at the different platforms such as Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, etc. And we also utilized various platforms to measure their clout or their credibility on that platform. From an offline perspective, we look at their reach and their social connectedness, as well as the credibility within their social peers.
You're still going out and actively recruiting someone who is going to preach the gospel about that brand.
And that's where it becomes very, very important. We need to choose the right brands. Those brands need to be remarkable in themselves, and they need to actually provide what we call an unmet consumer need. By doing that, we create what's called a value exchange, and whether it's credibility, so if you're talking the main market, badging is very important, and status is very important to them. So what we do is we make sure that the product adds status to their lives, and in turn, they then recommend the brand onwards.
Are they paid?
They aren't paid at all.
And that you would suggest gives it the authenticity and the credibility.
Correct. One of the difficult things is when you've had celebrities in the past that have been paid to endorse a product again, they lose any form of credibility. And what ends up happening is people look at them and go, oh, but that celebrity would never utilize that brand.
I understand what's in it for the brand. I don't get what's in it for the celebrity.
A lot of the time it's experience. So if you're a brand ambassador, you get to experience the latest products, you get exposure to the latest aspects of the brand.
And you get invited to all the cool parties and that sort of things, yeah.
In a way, yes, yes.
And it's a short-term thing, is it? I mean, would you have a relationship over 5 years? I guess not, given that the brand telescope these days has become so narrow.
Optimally, you want to have as long a relationship with them as possible.
But it doesn't work that way in real life, does it?
It depends. So you can have a long-term relationship, and it's very similar to a personal relationship that you have. You can have one-night stands, which is typically what we do as brands when we
Speak
do
for yourself, yes.
And then when we talk about long-term relationships, that's where brands are really starting to utilize the medium optimally.
Where's the risk here?
So the risk is in a lack of brand performance. And when we talk about word of mouth and about being a remarkable brand, it's more than just product performance. It's about customer service performance. It's about activation performance. It's about all those sort of elements, because they need to be remarkable. And one of the scary things is that in South Africa, we have probably the worst customer service in the world. And that was actually released by a study that was done by Accenture in 2012 that showed that we were the worst. So if we can improve our customer service to a perspective that becomes remarkable, people start recommending that.
What brands are best suited to this, and what brands are using it optimally?
So I think all brands are suited to it because of the fact that if you have the right brand, the right product, people will talk about it. And if we look at our everyday lives, depending on what our needs are, we talk about brands. And in South Africa, it actually shows that 1 in 3 conversations that we have is based around a brand loosely. Some of the brands that are utilizing it optimally, there's an alcohol brand that we work with, Smirnoff, that utilizes it, and they seed great products to great people in the right environment. They do it very responsibly, and what they've seen is massive growth over a period. Another element is the Mr. Price brand, which we work with, and really what they're all about is about value and putting in the hands of the right fashionable people, and by them being seen wearing it in their daily lives, that in itself is a recommendation. They also then create awareness around the brand.
All right, if you ever approach me and you want me to do a hair thickening treatment or something, I shall never speak to you. It's a good idea, though, and thank you very much for joining us. Next week on Mags on Media, an electrifying kiss, and we're going to talk sports sponsorship with a well-known and larger-than-life South African rugby figure. Until then, goodbye to you, and thank you for watching.
moves. enca.com.